The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Velthar's crystalline body flickered with distress as he processed the incoming transmission. The message was breaking apart, filled with screams and the sound of weapons fire. Through the chaos, one word repeated: help. The Velhari colony on Thessia Prime was dying. The peaceful farmers and scientists had no chance against the Krell swarm. These insect-like creatures consumed everything in their path, turning entire worlds into feeding grounds. The colony had maybe 2 days before complete annihilation. Council members argued in their various languages. The nearest civilized fleet was 3 weeks away. Every military force in the sector was already deployed elsewhere. The Velhari would be dead long before help arrived through normal channels. Velthar made a decision that terrified him. He activated the forbidden communication channel, the one marked with red warnings in 17 languages. The channel that connected to Earth. Earth, the Death World. A planet so hostile that its dominant species evolved to be nearly indestructible. Humans were banned from most civilized space. They were too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous. Their idea of acceptable risk made other species physically ill, but they had the fastest ships and the most lethal military in known space. The response came within minutes. A rough voice speaking heavily, accented, Galactic Common. This is Captain Day-Ho of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Send coordinates. Velthar's body dimmed with uncertainty. Captain, you understand the situation? The Krell swarm has 47 bioships. This is a suicide mission for any force smaller than a full battle group. There was a pause. Then Day-Ho laughed, a harsh sound that made Velthar's crystalline structure vibrate uncomfortably. Ambassador, we're the only option you have. We'll be there in 36 hours. Day-Ho out. Aboard the human dreadnought Indomitable, Captain Day-Ho studied the tactical display. His weathered face showed no emotion as he calculated the odds. 3 destroyers, 1 dreadnought, 1 carrier with marine contingent, against 47 Krell bioships and countless ground forces. The numbers were terrible. Lieutenant Hana approached his command chair. She was young but had cold eyes that had seen too much combat. Sir, I've plotted a course through the Crimson Nebula. We can cut travel time by 12 hours. The nebula will kill half the crew. Day-Ho said flatly. The Krell will kill all the Velhari, Hana replied. I've calculated acceptable losses at 18%. We lose some people. Or they lose everyone. Day-Ho nodded slowly. This was the human way. Calculate the cost, accept the sacrifice, complete the mission. He activated ship-wide communications. All hands, this is the captain. We have a rescue mission. Heavy resistance expected. The route will be dangerous. Some of you will not come home, but 8,000 civilians will die if we don't move fast. We leave in 1 hour. Prepare for combat operations. Down in the Marine Bay, Sergeant Taesung was already suiting up. He was massive even by human standards, with scars covering his arms and neck. His squad watched him with respect bordering on worship. He had kept them alive through 5 major engagements. Listen up, Taesung growled. We're going into a Krell nest. That means close combat, toxic atmosphere, and enemies that don't stop until you blow their heads off. Check your seals 3 times. Check your ammunition 4 times. Check your squad mates' gear 5 times. Nobody dies because of sloppy preparation. Private Bo-Ra, smaller than Taesung but just as fierce, grinned. Sergeant, the Krell are going to regret calling in the humans. They're bugs, Taesung said. They don't regret anything. They just eat. Our job is to make sure they choke on us. In the medical bay, Dr. Mi-sun was reviewing casualty projections. The numbers made her stomach twist. But she kept her expression calm. She had learned long ago that fear was useless. Preparation was everything. She began organizing surgical teams and preparing trauma stations. Young Ensign Jin Woo sat at the helm, his hands trembling slightly as he plotted the course through the nebula. This was his first real combat mission. Training simulations were one thing, but this was real. People would die. Maybe him. Nervous? Daeho asked, appearing beside him. Jinwoo jumped. Sir. Yes, sir. A little. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Just remember your training. Follow the numbers. Trust your instruments. Daeho's expression softened slightly. You'll do fine, kid. And if you don't, well, at least you'll die doing something that matters. It was the strangest pep talk Jin Woo had ever received, but somehow it helped. The Galactic Council had sent 3 observers to document the human response. They were safely secured in a shielded observation pod aboard Indomitable. As the fleet entered the Crimson Nebula, they watched in horror as radiation levels spiked to lethal ranges. They're killing themselves, one observer whispered. No, Velthar said quietly. They're calculating acceptable losses. This is what Deathworlders do. They accept risks that would make us surrender immediately. The journey through the nebula was violent. Ships shook from spatial distortions. Radiation burned through secondary systems. 2 crew members died from exposure when a seal failed. The humans recorded their names, sealed their bodies, and continued working. The alien observers watched the crew during off-shifts. Humans exercised in crushing gravity. They ate foods that registered as mild toxins. They practiced combat techniques that would shatter the bones of any other species. One human casually reset his own dislocated shoulder and returned to duty. These beings are insane, an observer muttered. No, Velthar corrected. They're survivors. Earth tried to kill them for millions of years. They learned to be unkillable. Now, they use those skills to protect others. 34 hours after departing, the fleet emerged from the nebula, battered, exhausted, but intact. The losses had been only 15%, better than Hana's projections. Ahead lay Thessia Prime. Sensors showed the Krell swarm surrounding the planet like a hungry cloud. 47 bioships, each one a living weapon. The human fleet was outnumbered 9-1. Daeho stood on the bridge, studying the enemy formation. His crew waited silently. Finally, he smiled, a cold expression without humor. All ships, battle stations, load all weapons. Prepare boarding teams. Today we show the galaxy why they should fear humans more than the Krell. He paused, then added quietly. And why the innocent should trust us with their lives. The fleet accelerated toward the swarm. The aliens had sent an SOS. The Deathworlders had answered. Now, the galaxy would see what that truly meant. The Crimson Nebula lived up to its deadly reputation. Space itself seemed angry here, twisted by ancient stellar explosions that had left reality scarred. The human fleet pushed through at speeds that made the Galactic Council observers clutch their safety restraints. Lieutenant Hana stood at her tactical station, eyes flickering between 36 displays. She was coordinating the entire fleet's movement through a region of space that most civilizations marked as a permanent no-go zone. Her fingers danced across controls, adjusting course by fractions of a degree every few seconds. Radiation spike ahead, she announced calmly. Recommend course adjustment 7 degrees port. Adjustment made. Jinwoo responded from the helm. His nervousness from earlier had transformed into intense concentration. There was no room for fear when every mistake could kill hundreds. A warning alarm blared. One of the destroyers, the Soul, had strayed too close to a spatial anomaly. Its shields flickered and failed. Emergency systems kicked in automatically. Soul reports casualty, the communications officer said. Engineering section exposed to radiation. 6 dead, 14 injured. Captain Daeho's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. Acknowledged. Continue on course. In the observation pod, the alien witnesses stared in disbelief. One of them, a feathered being named Kirsha, spoke in a trembling voice. "They're not stopping? 6 deaths? And they continue as if nothing happened?" Velthar watched the human captain's face on the monitor. "They recorded the names. They will mourn later. Right now, 8,000 Velhari civilians are counting on them to arrive in time." "This is madness," Kirsha insisted. "This is why they survive," Velthar said quietly. Down in the Marine quarters, Sergeant Tae Sung was conducting equipment checks. Every weapon, every seal, every piece of armor was inspected personally. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, finding problems that less experienced eyes would miss. "Sergeant," Private Bora said, "is it true you fought the Krell before?" Tae Sung nodded slowly. 5 years ago. Different colony, same situation. We arrived too late. Found nothing but bodies and empty buildings. The Krell had fed and moved on. The squad fell silent. Bora swallowed hard. "We'll be in time this time. Right? That's why we're taking the shortcut through hell," Tae Sung said. "Captain Daeho lost his family to raiders 10 years back. He understands what it means to wait for help that doesn't come. We'll get there. And we'll make the Krell regret every second they spent on that planet." He pulled out a photograph, worn and faded. It showed a younger Tae Sung with a woman and 2 children. "My sister and her kids. They were on that colony 5 years ago. So yeah, this one's personal, for more than just me." The squad exchanged glances. Their sergeant had never shared this before. Bo-Ra felt her resolve harden. They would reach the Velhari in time. They had to. In the medical bay, Dr. Mi-sun was training alien medical staff who had volunteered to help. The Galactic Council had sent 3 physicians, along with the observers. They watched in fascination and horror as Mi-sun demonstrated human emergency procedures. "Human physiology can withstand incredible trauma," Mi-sun explained, holding up a display showing human anatomy. "We can lose up to 40% of our blood and survive with treatment. We can function with multiple broken bones. Our pain tolerance is extremely high. By galactic standards." One of the alien doctors, a gelatinous being named Plorix, pulsed with confusion. "But surely such injuries would cause shock and incapacitation?" "For most species, yes. Humans evolved on a world where being incapacitated meant death. We learned to keep fighting even when severely injured." Mi-sun's expression was grim. "You'll see this firsthand soon. Human Marines will come back with wounds that should kill them. And they'll still be conscious and angry." The alien doctors looked at each other with visible concern. The fleet continued its brutal journey. Another day passed. More crew members died from radiation exposure, system failures, and accidents caused by the extreme conditions. The human response was always the same: record the names, seal the bodies, continue the mission. During off-duty hours, the alien observers witnessed aspects of human culture that both fascinated and disturbed them. They watched humans exercise in 3 times galactic standard gravity, treating it as normal. They observed combat training where humans hit each other with full force, breaking bones that healed within weeks thanks to their robust biology. One evening, Velthar entered the human mess hall. He found Captain Daeho eating something that made the ambassador's sensors spike with alarm. "Captain, my scanners indicate that food contains capsaicin at toxic levels," Velthar said. Daeho looked at his plate of spicy noodles and grinned. "Yeah, it's pretty mild today. Cook must be going easy on us before combat." "Mild?" "Captain, that concentration would cause severe pain to most species. That's the point. Clears the sinuses." Daeho took another large bite. Velthar's body dimmed with polite refusal. He was beginning to understand the human phrase, "no pain, no gain," had applications far beyond what he had imagined. Later that night, Jinwoo found himself unable to sleep. He wandered to the observation deck and found Lieutenant Hana already there, staring at the swirling chaos of the nebula outside. "Can't sleep either?" Hana asked without turning around. "First combat mission jitters," Jinwoo admitted. What if I make a mistake? What if I get people killed? Andy, you will make mistakes. People will die. Hana's voice was matter of fact. The question is, whether you learn from those mistakes or let them paralyze you. That's not very comforting. V, it's not meant to be. Comfort is a luxury we can't afford right now. Hana finally turned to look at him. But I'll tell you what Captain Dae-ho told me after my first mission went bad. We do this job not because we're perfect, but because someone has to. And if we don't, who will? Jinwoo nodded slowly. It made sense in a harsh, human sort of way. The final hours of the journey were the worst. The fleet had to navigate through a region where space itself seemed to fold back on itself. Ships disappeared from sensors only to reappear kilometers away. Time flowed strangely. Some crew members aged hours in minutes, but Lieutenant Hana's calculations held true. Her course, brutal as it was also accurate. 36 hours after departing, exactly as promised, the fleet emerged from the Crimson Nebula, battle-scarred, radiation-burned, and down nearly 200 crew members. But they had made it. R1. Ahead lay Thessia Prime. The planet was beautiful, covered in purple forests and silver oceans. But surrounding it was the Krell swarm, a dark cloud of biological warships that blotted out the stars. Captain Dae-ho stood on the bridge, silent for a long moment. Then he activated fleet-wide communications. All ships. This is Dae-ho. We came through hell to get here. Good people died getting us here on time. Now we honor them by finishing the job. Battle stations. Load all weapons. Prepare to engage. He paused, then added in a softer voice. The Velhari are counting on us. Let's not let them down like we've been let down before. Sergeant Tae-sung's voice came over the channel. Marines are ready, Captain. Give us something to kill. Oh, you'll get your chance, Sergeant. All ships, attack formation Delta. We're going straight through their lines. The alien observers gasped. Velthar spoke urgently. Captain, that's suicide. Standard doctrine is to maintain distance and use long-range weapons. Dae-ho smiled that cold smile again. Ambassador, we didn't come here to follow standard doctrine. We came here to win. Hold tight. The human fleet accelerated toward the Krell swarm at speeds that should have been impossible. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were about to teach the galaxy what that truly meant. The Krell swarm detected the human fleet too late. They had been focused on the dying Velhari colony below, their bioships gorging on the resources of Thessia Prime. The appearance of 5 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly into their formation caught them completely by surprise. Captain Dae-ho's voice was ice-cold. All weapons. Fire at will. The Indomitable opened fire first. Its main railguns launched slugs of metal at a fraction of light speed. 3 Krell bioships exploded before they could even respond, their organic armor no match for kinetic weapons designed to punch through asteroid fields. The Krell adapted quickly, as they always did. The swarm began to move, surrounding the human vessels with living ships that spit acid and launched biological missiles. What the Krell didn't understand was that humans expected this. Humans planned for this. Execute Wolfpack pattern. Lieutenant Hana commanded. Her fingers flew across the tactical display, coordinating all 5 human ships in a dance of destruction that defied conventional military doctrine. Instead of maintaining formation and fighting defensively, the human ships split apart. They darted through the Krell swarm, like predators hunting in a pack, isolating enemy vessels and destroying them with concentrated fire. When the Krell tried to swarm one ship, another would appear from an unexpected angle. Weapons. Blazing. Sol reports successful kill. That's number 7. The communications officer announced. Busan is taking heavy fire, Hana noted. Shields at 40%. Busan. Fall back. Daegu. Cover their withdrawal. Daeho ordered. The chess game continued. Each move calculated to maximize damage, while minimizing losses. In the carrier bay, Sergeant Taesung was strapped into his drop pod, his entire marine contingent ready for planetary assault. The colony below was still under siege by ground forces. The space battle would mean nothing if the Krell consumed everyone before the humans could reach them. 30 seconds to drop, the launch officer announced. Taesung activated his squad channel. Remember your training. Krell are fast, but we're faster. They're strong, but we're stronger. They don't feel fear. That's their weakness, not ours. We know fear, and we use it. Let's go save some civilians. Oorah! The Marines shouted in unison. The drop pods launched. 60 Marines in individual pods, falling through the atmosphere like meteors. The Krell ground forces detected them immediately and opened fire with organic artillery. 3 pods were destroyed in the descent, their occupants vaporized instantly. Taesung's pod hit the ground hard enough to create a small crater. The impact would have killed most species. Humans had designed their armor to absorb it, and their bodies could handle what the armor couldn't. He burst from the pod, weapon raised, and immediately shot 2 Krell warriors that had been approaching. Private Bo-Ra's pod landed 20 meters away. She rolled out, her smaller frame moving even faster than Taesung's. Sergeant, I've got visual on the colony's inner wall. Krell have breached in 3 locations. Then we push them back. Squad. On me. The Marines formed up with practiced efficiency and charged toward the colony. The Krell swarmed to meet them, clicking mandibles and razor-sharp claws eager for human flesh. What followed was not a battle by civilized standards. It was butchery. The humans fought with a ferocity that shocked even the mindless Krell. When ammunition ran out, they used blades. When blades broke, they used their armored fists. When armor failed, they used rocks and sheer stubborn rage. Inside the colony, a young Velhari named Shirval huddled with other civilians in a reinforced shelter. They could hear the fighting outside, the screech of Krell and the thunder of human weapons. Then the sounds changed. They heard impacts, breaking carapaces, and something that sounded like human laughter. The shelter door exploded inward. Shirval screamed, but instead of a Krell warrior, Sergeant Taesung stood there, covered in green Krell blood, his armor dented and scarred. United Earth Marines, he said in broken Velhari. We're here to get you out. Follow us. Stay low. Move. Fast. An elderly Velhari named Morthen stared at the human in awe and terror. You killed them? The Krell? Taesung grinned, a frightening expression on his battle-scarred face. Oh, we're just getting started. In orbit, the space battle had reached a critical point. The Krell Queen ship, massive and bloated with biomass, finally entered the fight. It was 3 times larger than the Indomitable, covered in thick armor plates and bristling with weapons that made the other bioships look like children's toys. Captain, that thing masses more than our entire fleet combined, Hana said, her voice tight with stress. Then we don't fight it fair, Daeho replied. He studied the tactical display, mind racing through possibilities. The Queen ship was targeting Indomitable, recognizing it as the fleet's command vessel. In 30 seconds, its main biocannon would fire, and no shield could stop that weapon. Daeho made his decision. Helm, emergency acceleration, ramming course. All crew, evacuate to life pods. You have 2 minutes. Jinwoo's hands froze on the controls. You heard me, Ensign. Ramming course. Now. Captain, there's not enough time to evacuate everyone, Hana protested. I know. That's why I'm asking for volunteers to stay at their posts. Daeho's voice carried through the entire ship. Anyone who remains will almost certainly die. But if we don't destroy that Queen ship, the entire fleet will be destroyed, and the colony will fall. I need people to keep the engines running, weapons firing, and shields up for exactly 87 more seconds. That's how long until impact. And there was a moment of silence. Then the communications officer spoke. Sir, I'm staying. We, engineering here. We're not going anywhere, Captain. Weapons stations staying operational. One by one, volunteers announced their decision to stay. In the end, 40 crew members remained at their posts. Jin Woo was one of them, his hands steady on the controls despite the fear threatening to overwhelm him. Lieutenant Hana, get to a life pod. That's an order, Daeho said. With respect, sir, you need a tactical officer to coordinate fleet operations after you're gone. Hana's voice was calm. I'm staying too. Daeho wanted to argue, but there was no time. Then let's make this count. All hands. It's been an honor. The Indomitable accelerated. The Krell Queen ship tried to evade, but it was too large, too slow. The human dreadnought, its remaining weapons firing continuously, slammed into the Queen ship at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. Taesung, leading civilians to safety, looked up and saw the flash. He knew immediately what it meant. He stopped, came to attention, and saluted. Rest in peace, Captain, he whispered. Bo-Ra, fighting off Krell warriors nearby, saw the gesture and understood. Tears streamed down her face. But she didn't stop fighting. The captain and his crew had bought them time. She would honor that sacrifice by using every second of it. In space, the Queen ship was dying. Its death threw the entire Krell swarm into chaos. Without the Queen's coordinating intelligence, the bioships became disorganized. Fighting individually, instead of as a unified force, the remaining human ships, though battered and exhausted, exploited this ruthlessly. The Soul, despite heavy damage, maneuvered behind 3 confused Krell ships and destroyed all of them. The Busan and Daegu worked in perfect coordination, herding enemies into kill zones. Within 20 minutes, the Krell swarm was routed. The survivors fled into deep space, their instinct to preserve the species overriding their hunger. On the ground, the Krell warriors suddenly abandoned their attack and scattered. Without the Queen's control, they reverted to basic survival instincts. The Marines hunted down the stragglers, making sure none remained to threaten the colony. Sergeant Taesung stood in the colony's central square, surrounded by exhausted Velhari civilians. Medical personnel were treating the wounded, both alien and human. The cost had been terrible, but they had won. Shirval approached the sergeant cautiously. Why did your people come? You knew many would die. Taesung looked at her with tired eyes. Because you asked for help. Where we come from, when someone calls for help, you answer. It's that simple. But your captain, so many of your crew, they understood the mission. So did we. Taesung's voice was rough with emotion. The galaxy fears us. Because we're willing to die. But what they should understand is that we're willing to die for others. That's what makes us dangerous. We don't just fight for ourselves. Above, debris from the Indomitable rained down through the atmosphere like falling stars. The colony of Thessia Prime was silent in the way that only comes after terrible violence. Smoke rose from hundreds of fires. The beautiful purple forests were scarred with impact craters and Krell acid burns. But the colony still stood, and the Velhari still lived. In a makeshift medical center, Dr. Mi-sun worked alongside Velhari healers to treat the wounded. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, stitching wounds that made the alien doctors cringe. Human and Velhari casualties lay side by side, united in their suffering. This human has lost 30% of his blood volume. A Velhari healer named Telrin said, her voice panicked. He should be unconscious. Or dead. The human marine in question, a young man named Kyung Min, grinned weakly. Takes more than that to stop a marine, Doc. Mi-sun pressed a hydration pack into his hand. Drink slowly. You're going into surgery in 10 minutes. Will he survive? Telrin asked. Probably. Humans are annoyingly hard to kill. Mi-sun's tone was dry, but Telrin saw the relief in her eyes. Every patient saved was a small victory after so much loss. Outside, Sergeant Taesung was supervising the collection of human remains from the battlefield. It was grim work, made worse by the fact that many of his friends were among the dead. Private Bo-Ra worked beside him, her face streaked with dirt and tears. Sergeant, we found Lieutenant J1, she said quietly. There's not much left. Taesung nodded slowly. Bag what you can. He gets a proper burial like everyone else. He paused, then added softly. He was a good officer. Died covering civilians. Bo-Ra wiped her eyes. Why does it hurt so much? We knew the risks. We knew people would die. Because we're human, Taesung said. We feel things. That's not a weakness. It's what makes us different from the Krell. They kill without thought. We kill to protect, and we mourn those who fall. That's why we're better than them. The Velhari civilians watched the humans work. Many had never seen death on this scale. They had been a peaceful species, sheltered by the Galactic Council's protection. Now they understood the cost of that protection when it came from warriors like these. Shirval helped recover human bodies from the wreckage. She was young, barely an adult by Velhari standards, but the battle had aged her. She handled each body with respect, learning from watching the Marines. These weren't just casualties. They were individuals who had chosen to die for strangers. Elder Moore then approached Sergeant Taesung as the sun set over the devastated colony. Your people suffered greatly for us. 347 dead, 600 wounded, all to save strangers. 8,000 of you are alive because of it, Taesung replied. That's not a bad trade. You speak of lives like mathematics. No. We speak of value. Every human who died here chose this. They volunteered, knowing they might not come back. That choice, that sacrifice, it has meaning. They saved you. Now you get to live, to rebuild, to remember them. Taesung's voice was rough. That's not mathematics. That's purpose. Moore then was silent for a long moment. You're Captain Daeho. He destroyed your own ship to kill the Queen. He did what needed to be done. The Council will remember this. The galaxy will remember. I hope so, Taesung said quietly. Because we're going to need help burying our dead. In orbit, the surviving human ships were conducting damage assessment. The Soul was barely functional, held together by emergency force fields and desperate engineering. The Busan had lost main power and was running on backups. The Daegu and the carrier were the most intact, but even they bore scars from the battle. Lieutenant Hana had survived. She had disobeyed Captain Daeho's last order and made it to a life pod with seconds to spare. Now, she commanded the fleet from the Soul, guilt eating at her. She should have died with the captain. Instead, she lived while better people had perished. Commander Hana, the communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Velthar wants to speak with you. Hana activated the channel. Velthar's crystalline form appeared, dimmer than usual. Commander, I have witnessed something today that I did not think possible. Your species. You are remarkable. We did our job, Hana said flatly. No, you did far more. You showed the galaxy what it means to be truly brave. Not fearless, but afraid and acting anyway. Not invincible, but willing to bleed for others. Velthar paused. The Council has been wrong about humans. We treated you like monsters when you are guardians. Tell that to the 347 who won't go home. I will. The galaxy will know their names. All of them. I promise you this. In the weeks that followed, the colony slowly began to heal. Human and Velhari worked side by side, rebuilding what the Krell had destroyed. Dr. Mi-sun established a joint medical training program, teaching Velhari healers human trauma medicine. The techniques were brutal by their standards, but effective. Sergeant Tae-sung found himself training Velhari volunteers who wanted to defend their world. Most couldn't handle the physical requirements, but a few surprised him with their determination. One young Velhari named Kireth managed to complete basic hand-to-hand combat training, something no other species had done before. "You're tougher than you look," Tae-sung told him. "I watched you fight," Kireth replied. "I watched humans die to save us. If you can do that, I can learn to defend my home." Bo-ra, promoted to corporal after her actions in the battle, led the first integrated human Velhari security patrol. It was awkward at first, but gradually the two species learned to work together. Shirval requested permission to join the human fleet. "I want to learn more about your people. I want to understand what drives you to such courage." Tae-sung considered her request. "It's not an easy life. You'll see things that will give you nightmares. You'll face dangers your species never imagined." "I've already seen those things," Shirval said quietly. "The difference is that humans run toward the danger, not away from it. I want to learn how to do that." 3 months after the battle, a memorial station was constructed in orbit of Thessia Prime. It held the names of all who died, human and Velhari alike. Captain Daeho's name was first on the list, followed by the 40 volunteers who stayed at their posts. Jin Woo's name was there, the young helmsman who overcame his fear to save thousands. At the dedication ceremony, Lieutenant Hana gave a speech that would be remembered across the galaxy. These people died not because they were fearless, but because they cared more about others than themselves. They were teachers, farmers, soldiers, and healers. They were flawed and frightened and brave. They were human, and in their final moments, they showed the galaxy what humanity truly means. But even as the memorial was dedicated, long-range sensors detected something troubling. The Krell swarm had been fleeing from something that scared even them. Deep space monitoring stations began reporting strange signals. Massive ships, dozens of them, moving through space with purpose and precision. They were heading toward populated systems, and their transmissions were clear, even across the vast distances. Submit or be harvested. A new threat was coming. The Harvesters, as they became known, had already destroyed 6 civilizations in the past 3 months. They were more advanced, more numerous, and more ruthless than the Krell could ever be. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Velthar stood before the assembled representatives. The humans saved Thessia Prime from an enemy that was itself fleeing. Now we face something worse. There was panic in the chamber. Council members argued and debated. Their fleets were designed for peacekeeping, not total war. They had relied on their reputation and diplomatic skill to avoid major conflicts. But the Harvesters didn't negotiate. Velthar made his proposal. "I move that we formally request Earth join the Galactic Defense Coalition, not as subordinates, but as equals. We need their strength, their courage, and their willingness to sacrifice." The debate lasted for hours. Many species still feared humans, but fear of the Harvesters was greater. Finally, the vote was called. By a narrow margin, Earth would be invited to join the Council as full members. In exchange, they would lead the defense against the Harvesters. When news reached Thessia Prime, Sergeant Tae-sung gathered his Marines. "The galaxy needs us again. Bigger threat this time. Probably worse odds." "When do we leave?" Bo-ra asked. Tae-sung smiled. "Soon as we can get these ships fixed. Earth's sending reinforcements. And this time, we're not going alone. We've got allies now." He looked at the memorial station through the window, at the names of the fallen. Captain Daeho started something here. He showed the galaxy that humans fight for more than just themselves. Now we get to finish what he started. The Deathworlders were going to war again. But this time, the galaxy would fight alongside them. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so tense. Representatives from 200 species filled the massive hall, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of sound and light. At the center stood Captain Sun Hee, Earth's representative to the United Nations Space Command. She was young for such an important role, but her eyes held the hardness of someone who had seen too much combat. Ambassador Velthar made the formal introduction. Captain Sun Hee speaks for Earth. I ask that the Council listen with open minds. Sun Hee stepped forward. She didn't bow or show deference. Instead, she activated a holographic display showing the Harvester fleet. 200 ships, each one massive, and covered in weapons that made even human technology look primitive. Behind them were the dead worlds, 6 civilizations reduced to lifeless rocks. This is what we're facing, Sun Hee said bluntly. The Harvesters have destroyed 6 species in 3 months. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They show up, demand submission, and when they don't get it, they harvest everything. Resources, technology, even the bodies of the dead. Murmurs rippled through the council. Sun Hee continued. You want Earth's help. You want our military, our warriors, our willingness to die. Fine. But we have conditions. A council member, a floating gas being named Horeth, pulsed with anger. Conditions? Your species should be grateful for the opportunity to prove you're not the savages we believe you to be. Sun Hee's expression didn't change. My species just lost 347 people saving yours. We don't need to prove anything. Afferent, you called us monsters, banned us from your space, and treated us like dangerous animals. Then the first time you needed someone willing to fight and die, you called us. So yes, we have conditions. She held up her hand, counting on her fingers. 1. Earth gets full council membership with equal voting rights. 2. We get access to all galactic technology. No restrictions. 3. You respect human sovereignty. We're not your attack dogs. We're your partners. 4. Every species that wants our protection contributes to the defense fleet. No more freeloaders hiding behind others' sacrifice. The council erupted in argument. Some supported the demands. Others called them outrageous. Sun Hee waited patiently for the noise to die down. You have 1 hour to decide, she said calmly. Because ready or not, the Harvesters are coming to the Velhari homeworld. Long-range sensors detected them 2 days ago. They'll arrive in 72 hours. With or without council approval, Earth is sending our fleet to defend it. The question is whether you'll be fighting beside us or hiding behind us. As she left the chamber, Admiral Jae-hyun was waiting. He was old for a combat officer, his hair gray and his face weathered by decades of service. He commanded Earth's entire defense fleet, and he looked grim. How did it go? He asked. About as expected. Half of them still think we're savages. The other half just want us to die for them without giving us respect. Sun Hee sighed. But they'll agree. They're more scared of the Harvesters than they are of us. Then let's prepare. The fleet is assembling. We've got 80 ships total. Mostly ours. But some Velhari volunteered their vessels. 80 against 200. Not great odds. Admiral Jae-hyun smiled grimly. When have we ever had good odds? At Thessia Prime, Sergeant Tae-sung was drilling his new integrated unit. 50 human Marines and 20 Velhari volunteers. The Velhari couldn't match human physical capabilities, but they brought their own strengths. Their senses were sharper, their aim more precise, and they had a natural talent for coordinating group tactics. Corporal Bora was working with a Velhari named Kireth on close-quarters combat. If you're going to hit something, hit it hard enough to matter. Quote, Kireth tried again, this time following through on his punch. The training dummy cracked. His eyes widened in surprise. See? You're stronger than you think, Bora said. Humans aren't special because we're strong. We're special because we refuse to quit. You can learn that. Shirval, now officially part of the human fleet, was studying tactical operations under Lieutenant Hana's guidance. The human officer had survived the destruction of the Indomitable and had been promoted to commander, now leading the combined tactical operations. The key to fighting larger forces is unpredictability, Hana explained, showing Shirval battle simulations. The harvesters rely on superior firepower and numbers. They expect enemies to fight defensively. We don't give them what they expect. But these tactics require accepting heavy casualties, Shirval said, troubled. Yes. That's the hard truth. Winning against superior forces means someone has to die to create openings for others. The question is whether those deaths accomplish something. Hana's expression was haunted. Captain Deho taught me that. He sacrificed himself and 40 others to save thousands. That's the calculation we always face. Dr. Misun had established a full medical academy on Thessia Prime. Velhari, humans, and even some council members who had stayed behind were learning from each other. The exchange of knowledge was transforming medical science across species. Human resilience is biological. Misun lectured to a class of mixed species. But resilience is also mental. It's about refusing to give up even when every logical calculation says you should. That's something any species can learn. Quote, well, a Velhari student raised her hand. But doctor, isn't that just ignoring reality? No. It's choosing which reality to accept. You can accept the reality that says, you'll fail, and give up. Or you can accept the reality that failing means others die, and refuse to let that happen. Humans learned this on Earth. Now we're teaching it to the galaxy. The Council finally voted. Earth received full membership, access to technology, and recognition as equals. In exchange, they would lead the defense against the harvesters. It wasn't friendship, not yet. But it was a start. The combined fleet assembled at the Velhari homeworld. 80 ships, facing an invasion force of 200. Admiral Jae-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Soul Reborn, rebuilt from the wreckage of the original Soul. Beside him, Commander Hana coordinated the fleet. All ships report ready, Hana said. Human vessels in aggressive formation. Allied ships in support positions. Marines standing by for boarding operations. Boarding operations? A Velhari captain asked over the channel. Against ships that size? Sergeant Taesung's voice came through. That's right. We're going to board their flagships and destroy them from the inside. It's what humans do best. The harvester fleet arrived exactly on schedule. Their ships were massive. Smooth surfaces covered in weapons that glowed with power. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their superiority. Their message broadcast across all frequencies. Submit or be harvested. You have 1 hour. Admiral Jae-hyun responded. This is Admiral Jae-hyun of the Earth Defense Fleet, commanding the Galactic Coalition forces. You came to the wrong galaxy. We don't submit. We fight. There was a pause. Then a new voice, cold and mechanical. You are the Deathworlders. We have heard of you. Your reputation is noted. Your submission would be valuable. Final offer. Serve us. Or die. Let me make this clear, Jae-hyun said. We survived Earth. We survived the Krell. We've survived everything the universe threw at us. You're just another thing trying to kill us. Good luck with that. The harvester response was immediate. They opened fire with weapons that tore through space itself. 3 Allied ships were destroyed in the first salvo. The battle had begun. All ships, execute pattern Daeho, Admiral Jae-hyun ordered. The human fleet scattered, each ship moving independently but coordinated through Hana's tactical network. They didn't fight defensively. They charged straight into the harvester formation, weapons blazing. It was suicide by conventional standards. It was exactly what the harvesters didn't expect. Taesung's Marines launched an assault craft, heading for the harvester flagship. Bora piloted their craft, dodging weapons fire that would have vaporized them. 30 seconds to impact. Everyone ready? Born ready. Taesung growled. Behind him, 20 human Marines and 10 Velhari volunteers, prepared for the most dangerous operation of their lives. They crashed through the Harvester hull, armor-absorbing impacts that should have killed them. The interior was alien, all sharp angles and cold metal. Harvester drones rushed to meet them, mechanical beings with no fear and no mercy. The Marines responded with fury. Human weapons designed for maximum destruction tore through drones. When ammunition ran out, they used blades and fists. The Velhari volunteers fought alongside them, their precise aim and tactical coordination complementing human aggression. Kirith. Left flank! Bo-Ra shouted. The Velhari soldier moved instantly, his weapon taking down 3 drones in quick succession. Getting the hang of this, Kirith shouted back. In space, the battle was chaos. The Harvesters had superior weapons and numbers, but humans had something else: the willingness to sacrifice. Ship after ship made suicide runs, destroying Harvester vessels at the cost of their own lives. Allied species watched in awe and horror as humans demonstrated what they had been trying to explain all along. They were scary, not because they were strong, but because they refused to lose. Even when death was certain, they kept fighting. Commander Hana coordinated the chaos from the Soul Reborn. Her tactical display showed 50 human ships remaining, 30 Allied vessels, facing 120 Harvesters. The odds were still terrible, but they were improving. All ships, focus fire on their command vessels. Marines, status? Taesung's voice came through, broken by static and weapons fire. We're at the flagship's core. Planting charges now. Get clear in 3 minutes. Negative, Sergeant. We can't pull back without exposing you. Then don't pull back. Just make sure you win. The channel went dead. Bo-Ra looked at Taesung. Sergeant? Set the charges. We knew this might be one way. He activated his final message beacon. To whoever finds this, we chose this. Tell Earth we died well. Tell the galaxy it was worth it. The charges detonated. The Harvester flagship exploded from the inside, taking 3 nearby ships with it. The loss of their command vessel threw the Harvester fleet into confusion. Just as the Krell Queen's death had disrupted the swarm, the battle turned. Human and Allied ships pressed the advantage, destroying disorganized Harvesters. After 6 hours of brutal combat, the Harvester fleet retreated. They had lost nearly 60% of their force. The galaxy had won, but the cost was terrible. 40 human ships destroyed, 18 Allied vessels, thousands dead, including Sergeant Taesung, Corporal Bo-Ra, and all the Marines who boarded the flagship. In the aftermath, as survivors limped back to the Velhari homeworld, the galaxy finally understood humans weren't monsters, they were guardians. They were the ones willing to stand in the darkness so others could stay in the light. Admiral Jae-hyun stood before the Galactic Council 3 weeks later. We won. But victory cost us dearly. If the Harvesters return, we need to be ready. Not just humans, all of us together. A memorial station was built, larger than the one at Thessia Prime. It held names from dozens of species, all who died defending the Velhari homeworld. Sergeant Taesung's name was there, along with his Marines. Their sacrifice had united the galaxy in a way diplomacy never could. Commander Hana became the first human military advisor to the Council. Shirval joined her, representing the Velhari and other species learning the human way of war. Dr. Misun's medical academy expanded, teaching 100 worlds how to survive impossible odds. 5 years later, a new fleet patrolled galactic space. Mixed crews, mixed tactics, but a unified purpose. When the Harvesters returned for revenge, they found not scattered civilizations but a united galaxy that had learned from the Deathworlders. They found a galaxy that refused to submit. A galaxy that would fight. A galaxy that, like humans before them, chose to stand and defend rather than kneel and surrender. Admiral Jae-hyun, now elderly and ready to retire, stood on the bridge of his flagship one last time. Beside him, Shirval commanded as his executive officer. She had learned well. "Do you think we'll ever have peace?" she asked. "Probably not," Jaehyun admitted. "The universe is dangerous. But we don't need peace. We need each other. That's what humans taught you. That's what you taught us. We're strongest when we stand together." He looked at Earth through the view screen. That beautiful, deadly world that had spawned the galaxy's most feared species. We came from hell. Now we make sure no one else has to go there alone. The story of the Deathworlders had begun with an SOS. It continued with sacrifice, courage, and the refusal to abandon those in need. And it would endure as long as someone, somewhere, needed help. Because when aliens sent an SOS, the Deathworlders would always answer. That was what made them truly terrifying. Not their strength, but their compassion. Not their violence, but their choice to use it only in defense of others. The galaxy had learned to fear them. Now, it had learned to trust them. And in that trust, hope survived.